Life with the Liz and Bees. I'm Sammy.
And I'm Hunter. Today we're going to be talking all about purpose. This is going to be a fun one. I'm excited. We're going to go through kind of my journey of finding my purpose and kind of want to hear what Sam has to say about it and her finding her purpose as well.
I have no prep for this podcast whatsoever. It's going to be totally off the cuff.
It'll be fun.
Hunter's taking the lead, so let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. See you guys on the other side. That's a way to start right there. I wasn't expecting that.
I told you I was playing Purpose to kick it off.
I want you guys to know that Lily Grace comes up here and she grabs this mic and she goes, and she sings. So I'm imagining her singing right here.
This is Lily singing right now.
Dang, this kind of fits low key of my purpose.
All right, we can stop there.
All right.
I just had to, kick off with that.
All right, Sam. So today we're going to be talking about purpose. We're going to be talking about my journey to purpose and what I went through.
It's going to be fun.
And just kind of figuring that out. So, Sam, do you want to answer this question for me?
Sure.
Do you know your purpose?
Yes.
What is your purpose?
Well, as a Christian, as a believer in Jesus, I truly feel like it's not my purpose. It's God's purpose for my life.
That's
and good. If I make my life all about me and what my purpose is, then I actually miss
what the heck? Are
God's
you reading
purpose.
my mind right now? This is what I'm supposed to be talking about.
I have no idea what you're going to say. Like we have not prepped this at all, but
We haven't.
I feel like my purpose is whatever God's purpose is for me, and how I live that out is by being in his word, because the word of God is the voice of him, and it's the greatest story of all time to guide us through our lives. And so I truly know that I'm living out my purpose when I'm reflecting Christ in my everyday, when I'm focused on people, when I'm living like how Jesus lived. And that's really hard to do as sinful people in a broken world who make mistakes every day. But that's what I would say is, quote unquote, my purpose.
I like it. That's kind of what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, cool.
I mean, that's kind of how I found my purpose, right? So last episode or the episode before that, I think it was 2 episodes ago, we talked about me, I stopped playing baseball after I tore my ACL. And after that, it was kind of like, what is my purpose? Baseball was all that I ever had. Baseball was all that I ever did. Yeah. I didn't love it that much.
Like, your purpose was centered around
what you did. Correct.
That was it.
That was terrible. Like, that's just, it sucks having that, because what happened was when me and Sam first got married, our first couple years, it was all about me. It was all about what my purpose was. It was all about my, whatever you want to call it. And it took 5 years for me to really understand purpose. And
I feel like all the time in our young marriage years, not now, but when people would ask, like, Hunter, what are you going to do with your life? Or what do you want to do with your life? You always were like, I don't know. I don't know my purpose yet. God hasn't given me my purpose yet. Like, every time we were within our friend group and we'd all know like what career paths we were going to go into, what we were going to do with our lives, it was always kind of like this joke, which is like terrible, that like Hunter just like didn't have it figured out yet.
No, I didn't. No, 100%. I mean, it's not like I just sat around and did nothing, right? I mean, I tried everything I could, and I think that's why I never understood purpose, right? So this week I've been trying to like study and learn what purpose is and what like just understanding purpose, like the definition of purpose, right? And to me, purpose is like, how are you going to change people's life? What's your legacy on this earth? Things of that nature. And I used to always confuse passion and purpose, and I didn't realize that. Passion is something that you may love, right? Passion is something that you may do because you enjoy doing it and you have this motivation to do it.
Like, I have a deep passion and love for you.
Correct, yeah.
But you're not my purpose. Like, I don't live
Yeah.
my everyday life to please you or for you.
Yeah.
But I have a passionate desire and love for you and to be accepted by you.
Yeah. And I guess I just never realized that. And I never realized that purpose wasn't about money. I always thought purpose was this thing where whatever your purpose is, you're supposed to make money from it. Whatever your purpose is, that's supposed to be your field, your thing that you do in life. And that's just not always the truth. Like, I always just centered around a job or a business that you may own and defined myself as that. That was my purpose.
But it's so hard because that's what society like
That's
shows
kinda what
you
they show,
from
right?
like high school. It's always like, where are you going to college? What are you going to college for? What are you majoring in? What are you doing after college?
Yeah.
When are you having kids? It's like your identity and your purpose is always wrapped around like things, materialistic things, or chasing things. And then you actually feel so unfulfilled because that actually has nothing to do with
It has
your
absolutely nothing to
purpose
do with it.
at
Yeah.
all.
And when I realized it's more so about your impact on the world, that kind of changed. So it's not like I have to do a job and that's my purpose. Like, I'm at a current job right now. That's not my purpose in life. But when I slowly started realizing, it feels like over the last like year, I've realized that, driven for golf, I was like, oh, that's my purpose, right? I was like, oh,
I
owning
finally figured
owning
it
a
out.
owning
Finally
a
figured it out.
owning a business where I can love golfing. I love golfing. Like, that's my passion. I love sports. That's my passion. I saw it as, oh, this is my purpose. This is how
Right.
I'm going to serve the world, is by bringing a mobile golf simulator to your local event.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's almost sad. It really is, to think that that's
Now
what
that
I thought.
I think back about it, it is sad for the both of us because I
Yeah.
had that. I genuinely, when we started driven for golf, I was like, finally. I was like, Hunter finally is like passionate about something and has like a purpose to work
Yeah.
and a purpose to motivate him. And I even had a completely wrong skew of purpose and passion, just like you did. My
Yeah.
view was different from the outside perspective of your life. But even for me, like, and all of the people in our friend group and our family, like when Hunter and I started Driven for Golf, it was like almost like, okay, yay, finally after 5 years, Hunter has his purpose.
Yeah. And do you know what that is?
What?
Do you know? Or no, you don't know, do you?
Your purpose?
Yeah.
What your purpose is now?
Yeah.
No, I want you to tell me what your purpose
So
is.
I've realized it. I've slowly started to realize it. And it's not, I think purpose can change too, by the way. I don't think purpose is your destined. There's only one thing that you can do. Because I think it's based off seasons. So right now, I think during my season of life, it's going to my job and being the light of Jesus, being the representation of Jesus. Because when I go into my job right now, there's nobody there, that goes to church every Sunday, that loves God like we do. So I've realized that if I can be the light every time I go in there, I don't have to talk about Jesus, but I can make them question, why is he so happy all the time?
Yeah.
He's at a job that we all know it's probably not his dream job,
Right.
but he's happy every day. He is kind. He's patient. He seems peace. And I think that's kind of my purpose now. But along that, right, when I got rid of the me, my, I purpose, and I got to where it's more so about what God's purpose is for me. It's not my purpose, it's God's purpose. Like you were saying earlier, I realized it's you, it's Lily. Like, you guys are my purpose. I'm going to get emotional here, but you guys really are. Like, and I didn't realize that. And when you stop thinking so selfishly, it just makes you realize, sorry, getting emotional. It just makes you realize.
I'm the pregnant one.
I know, I'm telling you. It really does. Like, it opens your eyes when you realize you stop thinking so selfishly and you realize that there's so much more to life than just yourself.
Yeah.
And right now, like, when I think of like how I want my legacy to be, I want people to think of, oh, Hunter was like, he loved Jesus. He loved his wife.
Yes.
And he served his daughters and he served his wife more than anyone. And if I can leave that behind, that just would make me so happy, knowing that that's what people would think about me.
Because that's your purpose. It goes beyond like your life here on earth.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, and like that's what the Bible talks about all the time. Like
Yeah.
you can store up all these treasures here on earth. I can't remember the exact Bible verse, but it's coming to me like that Bible verse that's like storing up earthly treasures. If you're chasing a job or you're like, my purpose is to make this much amount of money or this career or chase this. If you're just chasing like earthly things to fulfill you, like that's not actually fulfilling God's purpose. It's leaving a legacy to then impact the next generation to continue to make change for God, for his kingdom, because this life is like so tiny compared to eternity. So it's like when we sit here and we think about our purpose and like what we wake up every day doing.
Yeah.
Do we love what we do? Does it matter if we love what we do? Because here you are finding yourself in a corporate job right now where you enjoy what you do. Like you have fulfillment in accomplishing some of the tasks, but it's not your dream job. You don't love it. It's not the end game. So.
But right now I'm in a stage where it's like, how can I provide for my family?
You're like, it's okay that I don't love what I do. I'm not going to like fall into this state of just like, oh, I got to get out of this situation right now. I got to figure it out. It's like, maybe God wants you to sit in a season right now where you don't love what you do because he's trying to help you realize that like it's not about loving what you do or being happy with what you're doing. It's about honoring him.
Yeah.
And then taking the opportunities like you just said, where when you take it off yourself and you're like, wow, God put me in this work environment, in this company, because there's so many people here that need love and that need hope. And I can be the one to show them.
Yeah.
And if you weren't in that environment, you could not impact those people.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like it's an easy task either, right? Like we're going to make mistakes and there's going to be days where I'm not going to be as happy as other days. But if I can just do the best that I can and just have them question like what's inside of him that I can have, you know, why not do my best at doing that? Because that's what all I can do right now, right? So it's make the best of the situation I have and call it a day.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's like the piece right there that so many of us, even for me, that I'm struggling with right now is like that whole concept of like, if this is as good as like it's going to get in your life, is God still good? Like when you realize that your purpose actually has nothing to do with like your selfish desires and you, and you're like, wow, I actually am woken up today because God woke me up today. He didn't have to wake me up today. And then you go to work or you go to school or you go be a stay-at-home mom and you're like, my purpose today is to love others like Jesus loves others and be an example for him and make an impact for him. And I think that's the missing piece for so many of us because we make the focus all about us. It's like, I'm not happy today because this is going on in my life or this happened to me or this person hurt me. And then it's like you get in these ruts and you get in these seasons where then it's just like you're stuck because it's just like all on you. Like the focus is all about you.
Yeah. And you become angry with God, but you don't realize how selfish you're being. Right.
And I just had that realization last night.
You know, it's hard though. I mean, it's not easy. We have these highs and then when you're so high and then you come so low, but you're not really low, you're just back to middle because you had such a high here. And as soon as you come back to the middle, you feel like you're at the lowest part of your life, but you're not.
Yep.
You're just not, at the peak of doing something or in the middle of a stage or in the middle of a season. You're just, right now, you just started the season and you're starting down here again until you get to that point again.
Yeah.
If you know what that means, I mean, it kind of makes sense what I'm saying there.
No, and like I can give an example of this, like just to be real, like I was having a very hard emotional night last night because I'm in a season where like I'm about to have my second baby. I have this passion, like we just talked about, for serving women, for being an entrepreneur, for making an impact in that way. Yeah. I want Hunter to be home with us and I want us to be entrepreneurs together. He also has that desire. Yeah. But right now in this season, that is not reality. Yeah. But guess what? A year ago, it was reality. But a year ago, we were in a very different place also financially. Yeah. And now here we are actually a year later after selling our house, after getting out of a ton of debt, after having the baby, after seeing all this life change, where here I am last night having an emotional breakdown because I'm like, I want this reality now. Yeah. I want you to be home with us now. I want to be building businesses and being entrepreneurs together now. And Hunter's going, Sam, do you remember a year ago how different our finances looked?
Yeah.
And you're sitting here complaining, thinking you're at the lowest of the low right now. No, this isn't the lowest of the low right now. And that kind of goes back to your example, is like, you quit your job. We started the business. We were high. We were like so high. And then it like slowly started to fade a little bit as the business got
The
really
business
hard.
was a lot harder.
It
We weren't
wasn't
making
growing.
as much as we thought.
It wasn't. We were in debt from that. And so then it was like, okay, then we hit this low. And then we sold our house, and then we had other life shifts and things financially. And now it's like, really, we're in this middle phase. But my mindset was like, no, we're in a low. And Hunter's like, Sam, look at what God has done in our life the past year. Look at what he brought us through. Look at what we came out of. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's so right. So here I am thinking like we're in this low, when really, like, no, we're in a high. And if we can treat every season like, what if this is our last season? If this is as good as it gets, can we live the rest of our lives like this? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
good. Last episode, we talked about this quote, and it was, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. And I missed a very important part of that quote, and it was the quiet part. The reason that's so important is because I kind of felt like I went through that when I was at the same company I'm at now, but in a much lower position, and was just kind of going through life, you know, going to work, going to full-time school, trying to find something else and focusing on just me. I was living this life of quiet desperation. I was living this desperation of wanting to get out, and it was almost like I wanted to run away from reality, right? Like, I hated where I was at. And I would come home and Sam would say, hey, Hunter, how was your day? And I would say, same as usual. Like, that was my answer. And I think that's most men's answer.
Every day. I'm like, so like, what about it was good? Lunch. I had a good snack today. Like, I was like, oh, okay. And then Hunter would be like, Sam, how's your day? And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Because us as females, we just, you know, we need to talk.
You talk a little bit more, but
we need to talk.
I think the lack of communication didn't help me in my state. Now, I didn't know what my dreams and what my passions were, but I could have talked those out with you. I could have communicated more, and we didn't communicate that much in our first couple years of marriage. It was more so, how was your day? It was less intentional. It was
going through the motions.
Just going through the motions, right? And now I feel like we're more intentional every time we talk, every time we
now it's
ask
like
questions.
It's deep.
Yeah.
Now, when Hunter asks a question or I ask him a question, it's like, okay, we're like really going to share the vulnerable parts of our heart that we need to share. And we do that a lot. We have our own marriage counseling sessions about once a week.
Yeah, they're needed though.
Good.
They're needed, yeah.
And it's healthy, and it makes you realize how much you bottle up and how much you just like hold back. Really, even though like you're the closest person to me that knows everything about me, even still you can hold back
100%
from those people because of fear of what they're going to think, or fear of rejection, or fear of whatever. So it's like, yeah, that communication was lacking in the first few years, but now we get deep.
No, we 100% get deep. And most men, kind of like that quote, we're just quiet. We're not going to usually express our feelings because we may not want to put the burden on you or on our wife, whatever it may be. But that's just not the way to go about it.
Do you think that's what it stems from? Is you were more quiet in those early years because you didn't want to put this burden or pressure on me that I had to?
Well, I didn't want to
help like rescue
I complained,
you, or
you know, about my job, whatever, but not as much as I wanted to. But I didn't communicate enough to where we came up with a plan of how we could figure something else out.
Yeah, like we weren't figuring out plans.
It was always just like, we'll get through it.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get a better job. And then I just was too scared to get out or to take the risk or to go to another business. And like that quote, I was just desperately wanting to do something else, but I was quiet about it, you know? And
do you think it's like a pride thing for most
people
or most
I think
men?
most men it's a pride thing.
Because
100%.
From your perspective, you'd be like, well, if I express this to Sam, she's just going to be like, what? Like, he's a man. He needs to get over it and figure it out. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it.
Even though I wouldn't have thought that way or felt that way, you probably were thinking like that I was going to think you're weak
100%.
for not being able to push through those feelings or push through to provide for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's 100%. That's exactly how I felt. And so I kind of just wanted to share that just because I want to share that with other men. Here's how you can kind of get out of it. This is how I got out of it. And it was by praying, fasting, and communicating. And this is what I just thought about on the way home today. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but that's how I got out of it. By fasting and praying during that fast, by praying in different times. And Sam has seen me. I've fasted now.
What fast did you recently do? You should tell them.
Yeah, I did a fast, like, what was it? Probably
like
2 months ago.
Yeah, 2 months ago now.
I did a fast like 2 months ago where I don't like saying when I do fast, but I did a fast like 2 months ago, and it was for 3 days, no eating. I could only have a protein shake in the morning and afternoon, or in the morning and the nighttime. That was my breakfast. That was my lunch, and that's all I had. Or that was my dinner. Sorry, breakfast and dinner, and then water. It was not easy. I was starving. Do you
feel like God was pushing you to do that specifically because you knew that was like going to be the hardest for you?
No, yes.
Instead of just
because
giving
I love
up
food.
like sweets or just giving up one thing, he was like, "No, I want you to like basically give up all food for 3 days."
That's and
because you have nothing else to sustain you but me.
And that's exactly what it was, and that was all. I just wanted to put my focus on him, and that's what I did, and it helped a lot. Go through a journey that I wasn't expecting.
Well, I'll never forget that last third day when you're like texting me like, "Sam, I'm so hungry. I'm in so much pain." Like,
I started speaking. I was like, technically it ends tonight, so I can like technically
Hunter's like, technically 72 hours would be at this time tonight. And I said, no, at the start of the fast on Monday, you told me that you were not going to eat any solid food until Friday morning. Yeah. So I reminded Hunter, I held him accountable. I sent him scriptures. I sent him encouragement. And I said, no, you can do this, push through. And then to just give an example too, because I didn't do the fast with Hunter. Obviously being pregnant, I can't be fasting, like that kind of food. But just from like giving an example or giving some advice, if your spouse is wanting to do this or your spouse is needing to fast or they're feeling like God's calling them to do it and maybe you're not in a season where you can like do the same thing, there are things that you can do.
Yeah.
And so the way that I encouraged Hunter, I'd make the shakes for him and make sure that me and Lily ate all food before he got home. I did not want to be any of the reason that he would be tempted into eating food. If I was going to eat food around him, I asked him, hey, are you okay if I eat this in the bed while you're sitting right here next to me? And he would be like, yeah, you're fine. I'm watching basketball. I'm distracted. Or I'd cook all the food and eat it before he got home so he wasn't tempted. Like, there were so many times that I think you had said, hey, I want to fast to lose weight, or hey, I want to fast to do this for my fitness. But this time it was different. It was like, I'm doing this because I'm 100% like wanting to sustain on God and only him. And I was like, okay, I will support you through that fully.
Yeah. So, and I know most people don't want to hear, prayer, fasting, and communicating is your way of kind of finding your purpose, but it truly is what helped me. And if you just really put your focus on God, I think that will help so much finding your purpose, because we sit here
That's the number one thing.
Yeah, it's the number one thing. There's nothing else I think that can really help. Yeah, there's things that can temporarily fix a purpose or fix your purpose that you're looking for. But when you stop focusing on yourself and you think more towards of what's God's purpose for me, it just changes your whole mindset. My thought process was always worldly. It was like, what is my world purpose going to be? Like, how am I going to, serve this world? And yes, I can serve this world, but I have to do it from God's perspective. I can't do it from Hunter's perspective. And that's all I wanted to do. It was like, Hunter's perspective is, well, I love sports, so how can I serve people by teaching them about sports, or doing a job about sports, or golfing, or, doing something that's just worldly. And as soon as I realized that it's God's purpose and that everything flows through him, it just changed my whole mindset. And
well, I think it's asking yourself that question. How can I be used by God like right now in my current situation?
Yeah.
If you don't love your current job or your current lifestyle or the current situation that you're in, focus on what can I do right now to live out God's purpose in my life, while also taking steps prayerfully to possibly change my situation.
Yeah.
Because it's a both and. Like, we talked about this last week. So many people use the excuse of, well, I'm just waiting on God. That was your excuse for so long. You're like, I don't know my purpose because I'm just waiting on God. You did know your purpose. You just were so focused on yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of saying, I'm just waiting on God, you can look at your situation right now and see how you can be serving God in your current lifestyle and environment.
Yeah.
While also, if you don't like your current career or like your current situation, you can be taking steps and taking action to find a better job or to find or to make a shift in your life so that also can
Well, I
start
think
to
what
make changes in
happens,
that way.
kind of like with that quote, these men live in quiet desperations. They lead these lives of quiet desperation. It's because they are scared to fail. They're scared to get out of the situation they're in. They're scared that, their wife may think less of them. It's just this, again, it's back to this quiet desperation of wanting to get out, but they're focused on themselves. And when you're focused on yourself, you're never going to get out of this desperation.
So you're just living in fear.
You're just living in fear.
So you feel like you were just living in
fear.
fear.
100%. I was living
years.
in fear. I was scared of change. I hate change.
Yeah.
You know how much I hate change.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I do too.
I don't mind change in terms of like, where we live or whatever like that. But I hate change of like, nobody likes starting a new job.
Yes.
Nobody likes spending a bunch of money to start a business. Nobody likes that. Oh, well, let me go try a sales position and see how that goes. Oh, I got to cold call people and I'm an introvert. Yeah. Good luck. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I think men, especially older men, they get stuck on paying these bills and providing for their family, that they get stuck in this certain part of their life where it becomes very dark because they're not communicating.
Yeah.
And we talked about the prayer and fasting. Of course, if they're doing that, great. But it's also communicating. I think communicating is very big. Communicating to your spouse, communicating to somebody you may look up to. Just communicating is very big, and it helps you get out of that. And I think from a wife's perspective, to get your husband to communicate more, be intentional. When you ask him how his day was, don't just ask him how his day was. Start asking him what his goals are at his current company. Ask him, do you want to move up there? Do you love your job? Do you want to, go to a new company? Is this your dream job? Oh, it's not your dream job. What's your dream then?
Yeah.
You don't know your dream? Okay, that's fine. So how can your day be happier? Because I think most men will just say, I'm fine. Today was fine. Today was good. I got through it and I'm happy. But, in his mind, he's like, I really want to go be an astronaut. I really want to go out of this.
And us as wives were like, give us more.
Right? It's like,
But
you guys want to know more.
Yeah. And that's so helpful that you just gave some good like questions and examples for like women to ask better questions. And same goes for your kids. Like when you think about having conversations with your kids, I remember growing up when my parents were like, how's your day at school? I was like, good. Same old.
Right? You don't love school.
But when they would ask me like, hey, I know you had a presentation today. Like, what was your favorite part of the presentation? How did people respond to it? Like, that's intentional.
Yeah.
When you're intentional, when you are with your family or your friends and you care genuinely and ask them specific questions, most of the time they'll want to answer, or it'll make them go, I don't know, right? Like as the husband getting asked these questions by your wife, like I feel like if I would have asked you these questions 4 years ago, you would have been like, Sam, I don't know. I don't know what my dream job is. I don't know what my dreams are, but it would have made you start thinking.
It's thinking.
And then you're going to start going, wait, I don't know what my dreams are. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And then you start being challenged.
You 100%
and then you
start
have
being
to grow
challenged.
and be uncomfortable.
Now, there is one thing I will say from a husband's perspective. Don't be too pushy. Don't be upset if he's not answering. There's a reason. This is terrible to say, and it gets me emotional every time I think about it. But men commit suicide 5 times more than women. Like, there's a reason. It's because they're quiet. It's because they're desperate to get out of whatever they're in. So when you ask these questions and it's not intentional, or you see he's being quiet, there's a reason he's being quiet. He hates his life, He hates what he's going through. He hates that season in his life, but he knows there's no way of getting out because he has to pay the bills. He has to provide for his family. He can't just quit his job and go start something else, So just be intentional from a wife's perspective. Be as intentional as you can be, and don't just assume your husband's happy. just because he's making
Because
good
he
money.
has a smile on his face when he gets home.
Yeah.
And
Or he's just making good money,
or he's making good money.
you know?
Yeah.
And just understand that if he's playing video games, which, you know, I don't really play those anymore, but if he's playing video games, if he's going golfing, this is his way of getting out of that world and running away to this other reality. That's his way. And so I wanted to say that. So
No, that's really good. And I want to encourage everyone with the scripture from Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. It says, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And it's like God is saying in his word right there, we can have all the plans, all the dreams, all the hopes. We can try to do this life on our own. But it says right here, the Lord's purpose is what prevails.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can run from God. You can do what you want to do what makes you happy. You can chase the money. You can chase the things. But you're going to hit a breaking point.
Yep.
And you're going to realize that it's not good enough. And that you're so empty and you're so unfulfilled by all these worldly things that you chased and all these plans that you thought were for you.
Yeah.
And you're going to realize that the only thing that can fulfill you is God. And the only thing that can truly give you purpose is when you align with him and what he has called you to do, which is, I mean, like we've been talking about in this whole podcast. I just want to give some tangible things about how to find your purpose God's way, right? Because we've talked about so many just life examples and stories, but there's some tangible things like that you can really know and look at your life right now and look at your situation right now and question yourself and challenge yourself and go, am I actually like living a life on purpose for God, or is my purpose all about me?
Yeah.
So number one, you will come to know your purpose as you seek God and read your word. So if you ever say, I don't know what my purpose is, or you hear somebody else say, I don't know what my purpose is, I'm just figuring it out. You know what you need to tell them? And you know what you need to tell yourself? I do know what my purpose is. Your purpose is getting into God's word, letting his word speak to you, praying, seeking him, and realizing that his purpose is in the book called the Bible. Yeah. And he has showed us through the life of Jesus exactly what our purpose is supposed to be. You just have to open it up and you have to read it and let it speak to you and come alive in your life. That's how you figure out your purpose. That is your purpose.
Amen.
Number two, your purpose will take faith, right? So it's like, okay, you're seeking God. He's now starting to open some doors of opportunity. And, you know, let's just say that it's a door in an unknown career or an unknown role that you've never embarked on before. And so you're like, I can't do that. I'm not called to do that. I think about Moses in the Bible because Moses, I mean, as we know, was called by God to free his people, to free the Israelites. And God comes to Moses through the burning bush and he's like, Moses, I have called you to go to Pharaoh, go to Egypt, and tell him to let my people go. And like, you're going to go be the person on behalf of me that's going to free the Israelites. I need you to do it. And what does Moses start doing in that moment? Arguing with God, questioning God. And God's like, why are you arguing with me right now? You're not going to win this battle. This is what I'm telling you to do. And then Moses went and did it. Yeah. But immediately when that purpose was called to Moses by God, Moses was fearful. He had questions. He didn't want to do it. He pushed back. But at the end of the day, like Proverbs says, the Lord's plan prevails. The Lord's purpose prevails. You can try to argue with God as much as you want and push back, but his will be done, whether you get on board with it or not. And if you don't get on board with it, consequences will come. Consequences will come. And so your purpose will take faith. You have to step out in faith. Number three, God is going to make you uncomfortable until you step out to fulfill your purpose. So if you're in a season right now where you're like, I'm so uncomfortable, like I have no certainty, I have no hope, I have no confidence, is that God maybe getting you really uncomfortable in your everyday because he's like, I need you to move. I need you to take action. Stop sitting there. Stop being a victim.
I'll tell you, for me doing this right here, I did not really want to do this. Sam brought it up and I was like, I do not want to do this. And it was last summer, I think you brought it up, and we didn't launch until really January. I did not want to do this, but I just felt this nudge to just keep pushing me and just like, go do it. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, are you afraid of what people are going to think of you? Are you afraid of, you know, what the world may think of you? Stop worrying about that and just focus on how you can better your relationship with God, how you can better your relationship with your wife, and just how you can grow in that area. And I didn't realize that until, we're here and
Well,
I
in
see it
that
from this
whole
view now.
time when like you're giving obviously me pushback to not want to do it, I'm just praying for you.
Yeah.
And while I'm not really like, hey, Hunter, remember that thing about doing a podcast? Do you still want to do it? Like, I brought it up to you maybe a few times, and each time you shut it down, and I was just like, whatever. And I just kept praying about it. I just kept praying that God would soften your heart, because ultimately at the end of the day, we started this podcast because we wish we had something like this when we were 18 years old getting married. We wish we had this when we were going through young marriage in college, and we didn't. And so if we now at 25 years old, 6 years into marriage, can take the little bit of life experience we had through that and impact other people, that's us fulfilling God's purpose.
Yeah, because young marriage is not easy. It's a journey. And when you don't have really any guidance other than an adult telling you, you're too young to get married, you should not be getting married.
Yeah.
You are not ready for marriage. That's just not what you want to hear when you're getting married. And it just leads to these negative thoughts of thinking, maybe we're not going to survive. Maybe we're not going to, live this marriage as long as I thought, or do this marriage as long as I thought. So
the odds are completely stacked against you when you get married
100%.
young. So we feel like we're fulfilling God's purpose for our life by doing this. And I felt that before Hunter did. And while he didn't, get on board with it really until early this year, I just continued to pray for him. And even if it wasn't something that he came about to agree to, that's fine, but I am grateful that you stepped out of that uncomfortability, because this is really easy for me to do.
Yeah.
It is really easy and really comfortable for me to do this.
Yeah.
It is really not easy for you, and it's really uncomfortable for you, but people need your voice. They need your story. They need your testimony for it to impact their lives.
Yeah.
That's not something that I can give to some of the viewers, but it is something that you can give. And we know this through the feedback that we're hearing from the podcast and from the testimonies coming in of the people that listen, of how much of an impact it's making. So your purpose will make you uncomfortable. God will make you uncomfortable. Number 4, your purpose will be for people, not for things. If your purpose is centered around anything materialistic, anything that is money related, or,
True.
And I do think that you can desire to have more money to do more good, because the reality is, if we had more good people in this world with a lot of money, we could do a lot more good things.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I want to see more Christians and more.
Well, again, that's why I
believers.
think there's different seasons for your purpose, right? Like, there may be a season where we both own a business together again, and our purpose is through that, and how we can serve people through that. But right now, it's not that. Our purpose, may be 5-10 years down the road when we're making $1 million. Hopefully, you never know. Maybe, how can we share that wealth? How can we help as much as we can?
Right, but it's like that mindset of like, why do we want to make $1 million?
Yeah.
Is it because we want to buy like the nicer house, the nicer car, more stuff for us? Or is it because we want to give more? We want to help more nonprofits. We want to start something to impact more people.
We want to help more missionaries go out and serve the world and do something that we weren't called to do, but do something they're called to do, so that they can have somebody supporting them, right? Like, it's different things like that.
It's not bad to want more money. It's not bad to make decisions in your life to get more money. It's what you choose to do with the money that, by the way, is God's in the first place. That's the only reason you have money, is because it's God's. He's entrusting you with his money. So it's like, it's his money. What are you going to do with it? So back to that, your purpose will be for people, not for things. Your purpose is not to chase money to get more things. Your purpose may be to chase money to help more people, to make more of an impact, and that's okay. If you are a believer and you want to make more money to do more good for Jesus, that's great. So it's like, make sure your heart position, God knows our heart positions. Where is your heart position when you're in a career or when you're striving for something. Is it for you? Is it for selfish glory, or is it for his glory? Because your purpose has to be for serving people. Number 5, your purpose will have significance beyond life on earth. And we talked about that so much.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Your
this whole
purpose is
podcast,
eternity. It's legacy. It's when me and Hunter die and our daughters are left on this earth. How are they going to continue the legacy for Jesus?
Yeah.
Like, we only get so much time here to impact them, and then they get to impact our grandkids and vice versa. And so, like, that is our life purpose, to have significance beyond life here on earth. And then finally, God has gifted you with the abilities already to live out your purpose. So if you're like, I'm not good enough, I don't have the skill set, I don't look a certain way or have a certain smartness to me to do this, it's like, no, God doesn't call the equipped. Yeah. He equips the called.
Yeah.
And so what that means is he can call you to something and equip you at the same exact time. He doesn't he's not looking for perfect. There's so many testimonies and stories of the Bible of where God literally took people, imperfect people, we're all imperfect people, and he called them and he equipped them through that. That's how God's going to grow you and challenge you, is 1, he's already gifted you with the abilities, and 2, when you say yes, he will only continue to shape you and mold you and grow you to live out your purpose. But you have to be willing to say yes and take the step.
I love it. I love everything that you just gave. I love all the information you gave because I think it's a huge help. And I think that's kind of the end of it today. I'm excited that we were able to share our thoughts, and we hope that, this can just help somebody today. And like I said before, when I learned about the stat of, it's 5 times more likely a man is going to commit suicide.
I didn't know that.
Than a woman. It bothered me because I could see myself in that time. If I were to stay in that stage of my life for another 10, 15 years, I absolutely could see where, I'm like, whoa.
You could get to the lowest of the
You get so low and you get so far in your head that you're like, luckily, I would never even think about it now, or would never think about it back then. But I could see why, they commit suicide. They get stuck in this stage where they just hate their life so much. And they're like, how can I get out? How can I go to a different reality? Yeah. That's how, it sucks and it's sad. And I'm glad we were able to talk about it. And I hope today that our podcast was able to help somebody.
Yeah.
We gave some tangible tips like, prayer, fasting, communicating, getting into the word. It's huge. So we're happy you guys listened today. We want to hear from you. So like if this episode has impacted you in any way, or like anything that we said, you were like, I relate to that, or I feel challenged, or that made me feel kind of uncomfortable, or like whatever thoughts or feelings you're having, like please share with us. Share them with us. Yeah.
It truly encourages us, and we need that encouragement for us to be able to keep going and to keep doing this. I mean, we don't make any money off of this. This is fun, free.
This is just us communicating
for us, sharing
our life. This is just what we talk about on a weekly,
So like our benefit to doing this is blessing you, helping you, supporting you, because this is not something we got, like we said, we needed. So we want to hear from you. You can DM us on Instagram at Life with the Lisenbys. You can send us an email at lifewiththelisenbys@gmail.com. We want your feedback from episodes we've recorded and shared, and also to give us ideas for future episodes, because we want to put out episodes and content that is going to be valuable for you, that you're actually going to want to watch and then share with a friend. So as you were listening, if there's a friend that you feel like needs to hear this, that you can lovingly share this episode with, share it with them. And we know today was a little bit deeper than the usual stuff that we talk about, but it was good.
It was intentional, and it was, I think, meaningful. Needed. And we can do funny stuff too. You guys just need to let us know. Give us feedback. If you want to hear about how do you get over your spouse going to the bathroom when you're right there, let's talk about it. Just let us know, guys. Thank you guys for listening. And
we release a new episode every single Monday. So you can always come back here every Monday to find a new episode. Subscribe on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Make sure you just are subscribed and following, and share this episode with a friend. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. So thanks for tuning in.
All right. Later.